Thank you, Coach. They told me that you are the Warriors. Is that correct? The reason why I'm saying that is that a couple weeks ago I was down the road in Monroe at George Walton Academy with the Bulldogs, and I've been there 4 times. This is my first time coming here. So they wanted to let you know that they're still the best, but you don't believe that, do you? Well, with that, the reason why I said that is because when I taught school, when I coached, I hated after lunch, because now we got to try to get your focus back. So let's try one more time. Good afternoon, Warriors. Very good, very good. Brandon Hardison, Director of Sales Training for Jim Ellis Automotive Group. We are the largest family-owned group around the Atlanta perimeter, meaning that there's one other group that's larger than us, but they're a public group. Well, what is the difference? If you ever heard of stocks, bonds, if you ever invested in something, you want a return on your investment, well, that's what the public group does. Well, how do they get the return? That means you got to work on Sundays. That means you got to work on holidays. You got to work whenever they say. Well, we're a family group. We're like the Chick-fil-A of the automotive industry. Our people don't work on Sundays. They don't work on holidays. We believe you need to be home with your family, your friends, worshiping your God in your own way. Business will be there the next day. It's our culture. We believe in taking care of you when you come to us. So, yes, I have receptionists. Well, what is that going to do with sales? Well, if they pick up the phone and don't give you what you want, we're going to lose an opportunity. I deal with what they call business development, people that you go to the website and you want some more information because that deals with sales. I deal with any one of our employees that have to interact with you face-to-face, phone, text, website. So I have about 3,700 people that I work with. Now, one of the reasons why I'm here, because I'm a former teacher and I love being here, we, Jim Ellis, we believe in being part of the community. We have dealerships in Beaufort, Kennesaw, Marietta. Our main campus is in Chamblee, but next month we're opening up 2 dealerships in McDonough. And how many of you have heard that this area is growing? How many of you know that Georgia's the #1 movie capital in the United States? How many of you know that they're building movie studios over in Newton County? They're building another airport because Charlie Brown Airport's not going to support it. So in another 3 years, Jim Ellis is coming out this way. We don't know if we're going to be in Rockland County or Newton County, but we are going to come out this way. Well, why are you telling us all that? Well, we have apprenticeships. We have summer interns. We take people that are planning not to go to college, and we give them the skill sets so they can come work for us. We have career planning. You have something you want to do in the future, let's say it's in the health field. We'll send you to school on our dime, and you can go and do that. Well, why would you do that? Well, as long as you're working with us and you do everything right, we know that our guests will have a good experience. We're a little bit different. So, with that said, here's what I run into when I go to high schools, whether they're public, whether they're charter, whether they're Christian, whether they're public, when I go to colleges. I run into people that are not ready for an opportunity. We have jobs, but here's the 2 biggest things when I talk to managers. Why did you let that person go? They were late. Why do you think your parents, guardians, administrators, teachers are trying to get you from point A to point B when the bell rings? So you won't be late. So when you come to me and we give you a job, you show up on time. If you don't show up on time, we can't get work done. You control that. Should you get fired because you don't show up on time? Wow. Other thing is attitude. Attitude. We all have good days, bad days. Welcome to the world. For those that are seniors, you're going to see it before the freshmen. But eventually, all of you are going to be in the real world. Let me give you a secret. Every day is not going to be sunshine. You're going to have bad days. No one wants you to come to work with a bad attitude. I got my own problems. You need to control them so you can get your work done, so you can reach your goals and dreams for you and your family. Those are the two biggest things we have with the young folks. Third thing is communication. They can't talk to someone. How many are student athletes in here? Good. Outstanding. Do the best you can. Practice so somebody will give you some money and you can go to school on their dime. But don't go to be a professional. Go to get an education and find something that you want to do. How many folks in here don't want to go to college? And that's okay. Anybody? Who doesn't want to go to college? You just want to go out into the workplace? Great. We love you too. You know why? Those skill sets are not being taught in schools that much anymore. And because you're not going to college, you have to get into the workplace quicker. Find something, no matter what, that's going to bring a smile to your face. The Creator gave all of us certain skills and passions. Right now, you need to be developing them. Tap into them. Get some help. Perfect it. Build your resume, if that makes sense. You don't have to be a 4-star athlete to build your resume. I see ROTC members in here. I bet you there's people that belong to the Beta Club. Bet you there's people that's on the debate team. Do something at your church. Do something. Build your resume because you're competing against other people for a job. Make sense? Okay. Here's what I'm here for today. Black History Month. I work for an automobile company. We have 18 dealerships. Anybody ever heard of a Porsche? Bugatti? Alfa Romeo? Boy, we sell all those things. But the thing about it is that you have to be 25 to drive them. Insurance rules. But nice cars. All right, here's where I'm going. Did we invent the automobile in America? Show of hands. You said yes? Okay. Look around at your other classmates, because they're looking at you, you would be wrong. We didn't invent the automobile. The automobile was invented over in Europe. The Italians started it, the Germans perfected it. What we did in the United States, we had a gentleman that should be up on the screen called Henry Ford. What did Henry Ford do? Anybody? Show of hands, no yelling out. What did Henry Ford do? No hollering out. I'm trying to hear this gentleman. Somebody help him out. He's
created the Model T and conveyor belt.
Well, not the conveyor belt. I'll take that. That's close. Mass production. Or the concept of factory. That's what Henry Ford did. Henry Ford started it. Anybody ever chew Wrigley's gum? How about if I would say Hershey's candy in Pennsylvania? Campbell's soup out of Camden, New Jersey. DuPont paint out of Delaware. They took that same concept of mass production and gave our ancestors a better way of life. In other words, in the 1860s, 1870s, 1880s, we had rich, we had poor. There was no middle class. There was no working class. Henry Ford helped give insight to that middle class. 40-hour work week, have the weekends off, beautiful thing. Now, I did hear somebody say the Model T, the Tin Lizzie, you're right. We're going to see a picture of that later, but it wasn't just Henry Ford. Anybody ever heard of Alfred P. Sloan? Probably not. But have you heard of General Motors? Chevrolet, Buick, GMC. They used to have Oldsmobile. They used to have Saturn. but Alfred P. Sloan was competing against Henry Ford. Another gentleman out of Detroit was called Walter P. Chrysler. Anybody heard of Chrysler? Yeah. Chrysler, along with the Dodge brothers, created something also to compete with those other two. Now, speaking of Chrysler, anybody ever been to New York City? Or saw a picture, video? Behind me, Coach should have up the Chrysler building. The Chrysler building was built by Walter P. Chrysler during an era called the Depression. Anybody know what the Depression was in 1929? What was this? How about the young people? Speak up. Stock market crash. People unemployed? Well, to get people employed in that region of the country, let's build a skyscraper. Chrysler building. At the time, it was the largest building in the Manhattan skyline, only for about 4 months, because there was another building going up on the other side of the skyline called the Empire, and that would be the largest building on the skyline until the World Trade Centers came, and then we know what happened with the World Trade Center, the original ones, and now we see what's up. But those three gentlemen, Henry Ford, Alfred P. Sloan, and Walter P. Chrysler, dominated this new technology called the horseless carriage, or the automobile, out of Detroit. And the reason for Detroit is that close to international. In other words, Canadians love this new technology also, so that was a good place for them to be. So, here's my story. Now that you understand those three, and this Tin Lizzie that someone nicely said as far as the Model T, I'm going to throw you a name. But to give honor to it, I need to go back before the gentleman so you can understand it. If we were to talk about the Middle Passage, we took slaves from Western Africa, brought them over here. What most people don't realize is that I want particular people who have skill sets. Maybe they're a mason, brick, stone, wood. Maybe they deal with farming, or maybe they're just good with their hands. I want to talk to you about a gentleman called Charles Richard Patterson. Never heard of him. A slave from Kentucky. He was so good with his hands and made his master so much money, his master made him a deal. If you can get to a certain point of money, you can have your freedom. That's what he did. And he left Kentucky and went to Ohio, a place called Greenfield. Probably never heard of it, but the state capital of Ohio is Columbus. Columbus has suburbs, just like Atlanta has suburbs. Greenfield, one of the suburbs. He married a Lakota Sioux. They had 2 children. One died in birth, one lived. The son that lived loved and honored his father, just like you should. He did everything he could to be like his father. His father sent him to school. And when he got out of school, he helped his father doing his craft. At that time, it was carriages and horses pulling the carriages. I want you to think, it's before the automobile. But that's what people in Atlanta, that's what people in this county got around in, until the technology came that we just talked about with Henry Ford. So now the horseless carriage, or this new technology for the time, automobile, is here. Charles Richard Patterson dies, so his son, Frederick Douglass Patterson, well, Frederick Douglass sounds familiar. Well, let me give you a hint. In those days, if you were famous, you named your children after these famous people. So Frederick Douglass Patterson, once his father died, he competed with Henry Ford, Walter P. Chrysler, and Alfred Sloan automobiles. Now, he didn't have mass production. He was making all of his vehicles by hand. Takes more time. But the Model T, the Tin Lizzie, cost about $500. Yeah, for the time, that was a lot of money. His car, the Greenfield touring car, he made 2 versions of it, were $850 because it was handmade. If I can get it to an assembly line, I could lower the price. But I'm not there yet. Well, why are you telling us this? His vehicle had more technology than Walter P. Chrysler, Henry Ford, and General Motors. In other words, the horsepower was better, the seats were softer, the windshield would keep out debris, the lamps or the headlights had more throw or distance, you could see further. It was a better automobile. You had to pay $350 more, but it was worth it. Now, I want Coach to put up this last picture. It's a picture of 2 people. You'll see Henry Ford, and then you'll see another gentleman called Harvey Firestone. Anybody heard of Firestone? Firestone tires. Wow. So what are you trying to say? Well, to build mass production, you need suppliers. I need people with the tires. I need people with the springs. I need people with the doors. I need all of these suppliers so I can do this mass production. So here's Henry Ford, here's Walter P. Chrysler, here's Alfred Sloan saying, hey, that Greenfield touring vehicle is a lot better than our vehicle. If this gentleman gets the consumer to buy his vehicle, he can compete with us mass production, and what's going to happen to us? So we got to figure out a way to keep him out. Now, I'm going to freeze it there just a second now that you got the background. 2-minute video, that's all. 2-minute video about Frederick Douglass Patterson, and then I'm going to come back, wrap it up, ask you some questions, just see if you're listening, because that's what I do, and then we'll let you go. So, Coach.
Frederick D. Patterson was the first African American to own and operate a car manufacturing business. Not new for Mr. Patterson was being a noteworthy first. While a student at Ohio State University, he became the first African American to play on the school's football team. After college, he returned to Greenfield, Ohio in the late 1800s and joined his father in the family-owned horse-drawn carriage business, which later became C.R. Patterson and Sons. When his father died in 1910, Mr. Patterson took over the business. An astute entrepreneur, he recognized that the new horseless carriages presented his company with a golden chance to expand. Seizing this opportunity, he converted his company in the early 1900s from producing horse-drawn carriages to manufacturing automobiles and made 150 cars. In 1915, he became known for his Greenfield Patterson automobile that he produced in 2 styles, each costing about $850. Those 2 styles competed with the popular Model T being manufactured by Henry Ford. Mr. Patterson's business became so profitable that he made an even larger expansion and shifted to making buses and trucks. With his eye on the future, he created a steady customer base by building strong relationships with numerous school districts.
And that's it. Short little 2 minutes, not that long. But the narrator said at the end that his business was so profitable that he converted to making buses and trucks. They left something out that you can research. Let's go back to these three guys, being Walter P. Chrysler, Alfred P. Sloan, Henry Ford, wondering what they're going to do with this gentleman that's trying to take their money. They blackballed him. In other words, Harvey Firestone, don't give him no tires. Don't give him no springs. Don't give him no glass for the windshield. Now, if you're Frederick Douglass Patterson, he can have an attitude. They're not treating me fair. I'm going to court. Those no good. Right? He could have moaned, hawed, went to the paper, did a lot of things. But he looked at the lay of the land and said, you know what, I got skills. Something new starting to happen here in Central Ohio. It's called public education. They're going to need buses. Let me convert everything I do to making buses. And he said, let them have the passenger vehicles. He made money. Because remember, if you do something well and you're in front of it, don't you think the people in Cleveland, which is north, are going to need public school buses? Don't you think the people in south of Columbus, which is Cincinnati, going to need buses? Yeah. I just am not going to have this fight with Walter P. Chrysler, Alfred P. Sloan, and with Henry Ford. That's the story that I want to leave you with. You're not going to get everything you're looking for in life. It's not designed to be fair. But with your attitude and your perseverance, you can do anything you want in America. That's what makes this country so great. So, before I get some questions, how come this story isn't in the history books? No, nobody has, oh, okay. Okay. Gentleman said a lot of things in history that you just can't record. Okay. It's not deemed important enough. Okay, I'll take that. Young lady in the back. Oh, never mind. Anybody else got an input? What do you think? Still didn't hear it. Oh, because he's black. Well, Martin Luther King's in the history book. He's black. Yeah, I'll save you time. There's a group of people, when they talk about putting books together, and since I'm a history teacher and I'm a historian, those group of people decide what goes in the books. I don't care if it's world history, U.S. History 1, U.S. History 2, political science. A group of people decide. And the bad thing for you, just like it was for me, the same things would be said year after year after year. The same people you would know about year after year. With today's technology, all I'm asking, plant a seed. Research on your own and find out more about things. If it was 50, 60 years ago, it might be a little bit tougher, but today, with all the technology, you can find out a lot. Now, the young man who did say that, you're right. America is the greatest country on the face of the earth. We have so much inbreeding as far as culture and learning from. Wow, we got a story to tell. But if we were to put every culture, every creed, everything that happened, you're right, the book would be enormous. It couldn't fit in this room. So we can't put every story there. I'm just asking you, go beyond what you basically can see and do some research on your own, because I guarantee you there's hundreds upon hundreds of great stories around that time, just like Frederick Douglass Patterson. Now, I told Coach, just like I told your principal, we also come here, just like we do at Marietta High School and North Atlanta High School and the other schools in our campuses, we do partnerships. In other words, we don't do sponsorships, but partnerships. What does that mean? Well, maybe an organization, a club, sports team needs money. We will partner together, and you get something out of it, we get something out of it. So just for something to think about if you belong to a sports team or if you're one of the coaches or extracurricular. But let me just ask some questions just to see if you were paying attention. CR in Patterson stands for what? Don't holler out, raise your hand if anybody remembers. Wow. It's first class, Coach. Nobody knows. How about this gentleman called Sloan? Anybody remember his first name? Alfred, yes, Alfred P. Sloan, very good. Walter Chrysler built a building. Where is it at? Oh boy, you remember that one. Very good. What was Henry Ford's vehicle that he created? Model T, very good. If you saw the video, Frederick Douglass Patterson went to what college? Ohio State, Buckeye, very good. Did you also hear he did something else? He played on the football team, but, say it again. He was the first African American to play football for Ohio State. Probably didn't know that. Here's another one that you probably didn't know about as I wind this down. How many of you have heard of a person called Jesse Owens? Anybody remember the 32 Summer Olympics and all that other good stuff, and Hitler and the Nazi Party and, okay. Jesse Owens also went to Ohio State. Guess who had all the records for the 100 and the long jump before Jesse Owens? Frederick Douglass Patterson. Did you know that? Okay. Just do some research. Just do some research. All right, just want to wind it down. What was the name of the vehicle that Frederick Douglass Patterson created? Greenfield automobile. What was the cost? Okay, some people are hollering out, but that's all right. No. $500? Okay. $500 was for another vehicle, but I'm glad you said that. $850. Came in two models. A touring vehicle, a little sports model, and then a sedan there with that. All right. With that, I know you got some other things that you want to do, but I just wanted to give you some different knowledge for the afternoon. But here's the bigger key. Attitude, attendance. Whether it's our business or youngsters going into any other business, you control that. If you can't show up on time, you're not going to keep a job. You're not going to have the things you want for long. If you can't adjust your attitude to work with other people, you're not going to have a job. Well, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Well, you're still going to have to work with other people. The people that contract you to do something, they expect something out of you, and your attitude still have to be in place. Make sense? Can we get you to do that, Warriors? Have a good afternoon.